Good evening. I am Reverend Dr. Lisette Cross. My pronouns are she, her, and Rev, and I serve as the Executive Director of Diversity Richmond. We are Greater Richmond's LGBTQ plus community hub. First, we want to thank our partners, Richmond Times-Dispatch, Virginia Video Network, and our beloved Virginia Pride. We hope to see you on September 14th at the Training Center for Pride Fest 2024. Yeah, that's a woo. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this important mayoral candidate forum as we hear from the 5 people who are vying for our vote to become the next mayor of this great city. 42. That was our Human Rights Campaign's Municipal Equality Index in 2017. And these words, LGBTQ plus community, we see you, we celebrate you, we champion justice together, with love, the city of Richmond. That was in 2023, a love letter from the city. This was only made possible by the person who held the position of mayor in this city. And what we realized tonight in this I Vote with Pride mayoral candidate forum is that pride is not only about visibility, it's about action. And tonight we bring that spirit of action to engage with candidates who will directly impact the policies, resources, and future of our city. Let's vote with the awareness that our choices can affect housing, healthcare, education, safety, and the right to live authentically and freely. So, ask the tough questions, think critically, and leave here ready to take action. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being involved, and thank you for being proud. Let's make this a forum that reflects the strength, diversity, and the beauty and fabulousness of the LGBTQ plus community of Greater Richmond, our allies and supporters. And so now it is my pleasure to introduce our co-moderators for tonight, which many of you are probably no strangers to. Alexis Rogers, who works to make Black communities powerful in politics through her work as Black Futures Lab and Black to the Future Action Fund. She made history as a candidate for mayor of Richmond in 2020. Jeff Shapiro, politics columnist for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, has covered campaigns and governments in Virginia for nearly 45 years. His video column is posted Tuesdays on the Times-Dispatch website, and this forum is being live streamed to richmond.com. It is my pleasure to turn it over to them. Please enjoy the forum.
Good evening, Richmond. Good evening. I'm excited to be here. Jeff's ever to my right. That was a political joke for some of y'all. We're going to have fun tonight. We're going to have about an hour.
But not to the right of reason.
Not to the right of reason, some might say. We're going to have fun tonight, and, I'm so honored to be here in this space with you all. It's the space that I come to for community. It's a space that we've had very important elections in, and I just want to thank Lisette and the entire Diversity Richmond team for being a hub for the community, the LGBT community, but also Richmond overall. And I think it's really important that we're in this space for this conversation. I want to hit some of the rules so that the candidates are reminded of their response times, because I think this might be your 27th forum, and every rule has probably been different. In a moment, we'll start with opening statements where you'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to the audience here tonight. And then once we get into the questions, which will be a mix of questions from your moderators here and some that have been submitted from the audience as they've arrived, some that were submitted in advance, you will have up to 45 seconds to respond to those questions. We'll have about an hour of conversation up here, and then we're going to transition. We'll transition into kind of a networking opportunity for people to engage directly with the candidates after the conversation. If that all sounds good, I think, Jeff, you want me to take the first question? I actually want to pick up where Lisette mentioned about the Human Rights Campaign and the Municipality Index. More recently, the Human Rights Campaign gave Richmond a 99 of 100, which shows the growth that the city has had when it comes to equality issues. However, there are some issues that the Human Rights Campaign still recommends that we have for growth, including protecting youth from conversion therapy. So for each of the candidates, I'd like to know, number one, would you support efforts to ban conversion therapy in the city of Richmond? And beyond that, what other ideas? Sorry, I'm missing opening statements, so you have more time to think about that. Each of you will have 2 minutes for opening statements, and then we'll get into the first question. So let's start with Councilman Addison. You'll have the first opening statement. Yeah, you have more time to think about your response to my first heated question. I was ready. I'm ready to get into it. I know all y'all.
Alexis, Jeff, thank you so much. It's great to see you. My name is Andreas Addison. I am a current city councilman representing the 1st District for the last 8 years. Before that, I worked in City Hall for 8 years, so 16 years of combined public service to this city, working to try to find ways to make it work for everybody. One of the things that's, I think, interesting about my candidacy is no one really knows a lot about who I am. And so I'm born and raised in Virginia. I grew up with my single mother. She remarried when I was 4. Grew up in a little farm tract in the middle of Shenandoah County. Where I grew up on free lunch. I grew up on Social Security checks because my real father was handicapped from an alcoholic brain injury before I was 5. And so throughout my entire childhood, I saw a lot of things that helped me get to where I was. But the also thing I had was a big, strong community around me. The things my parents might not have been able to support with me, my friends' parents did. And so I was really benefited to develop because of the network around my school. I had after-school programs, I had after-school sports, I had after-school arts and culture and music. And that's really what helped develop me to go to then attend college on a Pell Grant, because the only way I could really get there was through government assistance again. When I graduated from Virginia Tech, don't judge me for that, I graduated with a degree in political science. And I moved to Richmond, and yes, I'm actually using my political science degree, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm able to apply that here in the capital of the Commonwealth. And through my time here, thank you for that. Is that for the political science degree or me being here? And so what I'm proud to do is that's what shaped my career. Is I am here because of government help and assistance, but also because of the help of community. And so now as I'm running for mayor, I want to take that experience and really drive that change across all corners of our city. Investing where people live, helping people stay in their homes, but more importantly, the homes that they've invested in, they want to raise their family, is also where they can enjoy a park, enjoy a neighborhood, go to a sporting event, go to see music, arts, and culture as well in a safe environment. So for me, that's why I'm running for mayor. We'll talk more about some of my experience and my aspects of what I've done on city council. I look forward to this evening's conversation. Good to see you all.
There you go. Good evening, friends. My name is Danny Avula. Pronouns are he, him. I am a pediatrician. I am a 20-plus year resident of the East End of Richmond, North Churchill. I am a former public health director for the city, the former DSS commissioner for the state. I helped lead the regional response to COVID in 2020 and the state vaccine response in 2021. I am the spouse to an RPS teacher. My wife, Mary Kay, has been teaching in public schools most of the last 20 years at Chimborazo Elementary. I am the dad to 5 kids who have all gone to Richmond Public Schools. We love Richmond. We are deeply invested in the city. We care about this, where we are as a city now and where we're heading in the future. The things that brought me to the East End after I came to go to medical school originally in 2000, I was compelled by 2 ideas. One, the idea of the beloved community. Martin Luther King's idea that people could choose to live in places and spaces and build relationships across race, class, and difference. And the idea of proximity, that when you are proximate to people who are different than you, you are shaped and formed and you find your wholeness in those relationships. And so we did that. We moved to the East End of Richmond in 2004, and for the better part of 10, 12 years, had this incredible experience of community building, of building relationships across difference. And then what happened as the city began to develop, as Churchill began to develop, is that we lost that. Many of my neighbors, particularly my black neighbors, were pushed out of the neighborhood because of rising rents and property taxes. And so I'm running for mayor to make sure that our community can preserve the richness and the diversity that so many of us yearn for and that all of us need. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle Mosby. I am a Richmond native. Born on the north side of Richmond. My parents bought their first home in what we know as the 6th District. My grandmother lived around the corner on Enslow. Babysitters have to be close. From there, it was watching my parents be parents. It was watching them determined that they were going to give me the chance to do all things. They put me in piano. They put me in the Brownies. I've been in everything that my mother could think of to put me in. And so I think that that was a part of what was shaping me. I am a business owner of 23 years. I'm the first in my family to start a business. I went to my dad, and my dad said, "What's the plan?" And from there, he began to help me with business. I am a realtor of 18 plus years, helping those who would sometimes believe that being a homeowner wouldn't be an option, but helping them become homeowners. I am a nonprofit executive director of a nonprofit called Help Me Help You, which helps those who have been incarcerated get reacclimated back into society. And I've been on city council, and we'll talk about that a little later, but it's that very thing, working with the incarcerated, that drove me to run for office, because it's about helping people to have equality, equity, when they're being told that they're less than. And so I'm running for mayor because I want to make sure that Richmond is a city that works for all of us. And I have been successful in helping those who have had been discriminated against, mistreated, and so I'm looking forward to being Richmond's next mayor and moving Richmond forward for every single Richmonder. Thank you so much.
Ready to go. I'm Maurice Neblett. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I'm excited for being here today to communicate with you about who I am and the candidacy that I push. So since the beginning of the election, we've been pushing transparency, accountability, and with that is financial accountability, public safety, and education, right? It's very important to make sure that we have the fabrics of Richmond intertwined so that we can continue and thrive and have a new way forward to a better Richmond. So I'm Maurice Neblett. I grew up in Richmond. I'm homegrown. There's no place like home, and that's why I'm running for Richmond. I'm running for Richmond mayor because I love Richmond. I love the people in Richmond. I love the new ideas that I have, and I believe that it'll be effective for Richmond. So I came up through foster care. My mother passed when I was a child. I grew up in dysfunction, right? But that didn't allow that to make the determination on what route my life goes. Now, granted, I lived all over the city of Richmond. I lived north, east, south, and west. I lived in the Big Six, so those pretty much is all of RRHA properties. So I had to beat the odds. I mean, I beat odds after odds. I've been faced, I've seen, and I've overcame. So when I saw, the issues in our community, I moved out because I was in social services, and I saw, being exposed to different areas and communities. I saw that what I lived and what I saw wasn't normal. I saw the discriminatory. I saw the violence. I saw issues in the community, and I had to do something about it. So I became a community organizer. Along with that, I reached back and helped all populations with issues that we live with every day. We walk by every day. But also, I'm a first-generation graduate. Though I was in my circumstance, I was the first to graduate college from Virginia Union University. But also, I'm a business owner, a serial entrepreneur. I'm also on the board of directors of a federal credit union as well. And with me coming into this aspect of running for mayor, it's about giving everyone a fair shot. I'm running for mayor to give everyone an opportunity to thrive, give everyone an opportunity to live with peace, harmony, and respect.
Thank you, Mr. Neblett.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Harrison Rodet. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. Thank you so much to Diversity Richmond for hosting, and thank you all for coming out in September to talk about politics. It's great to see the level of interest that we have here. It gives you a lot of inspiration as a candidate to see so many people interested in the mayor's race, so thank you for being here. I grew up in Henrico County, and my first job after spending some time at William & Mary was right here in Richmond working for Senator Kane. And I talk about Senator Kane a lot, not just because he's a role model for me, but because I think him and Secretary Holton do such a good job of showing what public service is all about. They show that public service is about listening to people, because you can't advocate for people unless you listen to them and really represent their needs and fight for people. After working for Senator Kane, I spent many years working around industrial manufacturing. Some people find industrial manufacturing boring. I think it's one of the coolest and most exciting things around. People come from all over an area together under one roof to get things done. One common mission, one common purpose, no matter your background is. It actually sounds a lot like what we need to get done in the city, whether it's in City Hall or managing our budget. I've helped run businesses that are the size of our city and larger than our city. And after spending time doing that, I started a nonprofit here in our community called Bridging Virginia. Bridging Virginia makes loans to women and black-owned businesses that are being denied access to credit from banks. So when I talk about things like leveling the playing field, those are things that I've been working on firsthand for years to support our community. I'm really excited to talk about all the critical issues we'll cover tonight facing the city. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. I'm going to continue to run a campaign focused on a positive change for the city of Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our candidates. Yeah, and just to make sure it's not super redundant, I'll restate it, and then we're going to start with Mr. Avula since Andreas had the opening, or Mr. Addison had the first opening statement. So starting with Mr. Avula, again, the question is, Richmond has yet to ban conversion therapy, and would you support efforts to ban conversion therapy, which is a dangerous practice that targets LGBT youth and seeks to change their sexual or gender identities? So would you seek to ban it, and would you support other efforts that help to protect our LGBT youth?
Absolutely. I would seek to both ban it and support any efforts we can to support LGBT youth. I have had very close personal experience with this with staff members and with dear friends who have had these experiences of trying to be sent to conversion therapy, and have seen, as a pediatrician, I have read the literature on the impact that has on youth. And ultimately, you know, what my faith and my beliefs have taught me is that we need to value and love people no matter what. We need to celebrate who people are and support them in every way that we can.
Yes. The question again is, would you support efforts to ban conversion therapy, and do you have other ideas or ways that you plan to support LGBT youth in the city of Richmond?
So yes, I would support the ban, and I've done a little homework just to kind of see where we are in our laws and our policies as it relates to our youth, and my goal as mayor is to support our schools, support our school board, as we're looking to make sure that we are being equitable with our young people in their choice and the policies that are already put forth, and helping to make sure that we're working to make sure that those policies are actually done. Yes.
Yes, I would advocate for that. But also, I do want to introduce and make sure that we uplift initiatives like Side by Side, where we can provide counseling for our youth and LGBTQ plus communities. But I want to make sure that we have, you know, in our policies in school, we have to stress the anti-discrimination when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community for our youth, so they can feel comfortable and they be able to learn in an environment without having that stress and pressure. So I believe that that'll be a great effective for our youth. Thank you.
I absolutely would. I think it's abhorrent that anyone would ever try and indoctrinate someone into trying to turn them into someone that is not their chosen identity. That's not what our country's about. It's certainly not what Richmond's about. Another topic that I think is important is ensuring that anyone who wants access to reproductive care, no matter who you are and what your gender identity is, has access to that care. So these should be straightforward questions in any community, but particularly a community like Richmond.
On City Council back in 2021, we actually took up this vote as a decision to, as a body, make a decision on banning conversion therapy. Now, there's no further action we could take beyond making a statement, but I was proud to vote for that. And so I stand by that decision, and more importantly, I think as we look to supporting our youth, we need to make sure they have safe and healthy places they can go ask questions and explore who they really are, and find that as an opportunity that they can really grow and thrive into. And that's one thing that's hard to really bring together. That's going to be what our community like yourselves are, and what we can do together in making sure that we have those support opportunities. And so if any opportunity to create legislation to lobby the General Assembly or fight the General Assembly, if things are coming up against that, I will vehemently stand up for this opportunity as well.
I guess we'll start with Ms. Mosby. The Georgia school shootings, which 2 teachers killed, 2 students killed as well, a reminder of the vulnerability of...
Mr. Print.
All right. How's that? Better. The Georgia school shooting this week, 2 teachers killed, 2 students as well, a reminder of the vulnerability that educators and our youth face. Are you comfortable with the steps that RPS administration is taking to keep our schools safe and secure? Are there steps that you would recommend beyond those that have been announced? And as a second question, do any of you own firearms? And if you do you do so for purposes of personal protection or sport?
I support the protections that the schools have taken thus far, and I actually had a meeting with our police chief to see what else can be done with our young people in the schools. Yes, we own a firearm. Yes, personal protection. I'm not against the firearms. I'm against us making sure that our firearms are out of reach of children, and that children can't harm other children and anyone else, or people can't harm anyone that have bad thoughts and not doing what they should do with their firearm.
Thank you.
Yes, I do support the route where RPS is going. They're doing the best that they can right now. But what I do recommend as an individual that's looking to be mayor, I do believe we do need to employ mental health services in our schools in times like this. We have to, give the students an understanding of what's going on around the world and what possibly could happen in their school. We have to create a deterrence mechanism within the school, but give intervention and support in that manner. So I do have firearms professionally and personally as well. I have a background in criminology, criminal justice, and law enforcement. So with that regards, I do believe that we do need to maintain our right to bear arms, but we need to make sure that we do not allow loose gun laws, and we have to go along with the state and federal provisions, but we have to make sure that we do not allow individuals that shouldn't have firearms, and also increase the code enforcement to reduce firearms that the youth are putting in abandoned vehicles as well, so that we can avoid the youth from having firearms, along with parent participation. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
So no, I do not own a firearm, nor have I ever owned a firearm. Gun safety is a deeply critical topic. It's been front and center for our campaign. I published a multi-part plan several months ago that includes things like creating an Office of Gun Violence Prevention within the Office of the Mayor, encouraging incident reviews to be more thorough, investing in community programs that partner with organizations to protect our kids. I think those and other reasons are why Moms Demand Gun Violence has recognized my candidacy as one that is a common sense gun violence prevention candidacy. And yes, I support the efforts that RPS has ongoing.
Having gone to Thomas Jefferson High School, I do support the changes that we're seeing put in for safety. However, there is a little bit of a kind of a militaristic aspect to it. There is a lot of, I think, violation of some people's individual aspects. And as a child, it can be traumatic going through an experience of walking through a metal detector and having someone pull you aside and look through your stuff, and all you're trying to do is go to school. And so we need to make sure we balance both safety and keeping our classrooms safe, but also making sure that we're not violating the development so that they're maybe further traumatized just trying to go to school for the day. And so one thing, too, I think is important is I grew up around guns in the country. We would go to school and there would be a rifle in someone's truck where they went hunting that morning, and I'm used to being around them. But when it comes down to being where I see here today is gun safety, they've got to be safely secured, properly trained, and making sure people are keeping them where they need to be, stored it where they're safely accessible, or not.
But do you own firearms?
Oh, no, I do not.
I also do not own firearms. As a public health physician, this has been a huge area of focus in my career. Back in 2018, we spearheaded a regional symposium for healthcare providers so that we would train them and equip them to be able to talk to patients and encourage them around safe firearm use and storage. One of the proudest moments of my public health career was a side-by-side op-ed that the RTD published that I wrote as a public health professional, and my daughter, who is adopted and grew up around gun violence, wrote from her personal experience. And I am supportive of the efforts the school have made. I've got 5 kids, as I said, many who are in Richmond Public Schools right now, clear backpacks. It is a challenge, but we need to both keep kids and teachers safe, as the husband of an RPS teacher.
I think I've got the next question. We'll start with Mr. Neblett for this one. Previously, you all each committed not to seek higher office during your term as mayor, which might be a good idea since the last one to actually move up was Mr. Tim Kaine. Do you all think the strong mayor system is working? The council has studied changes to the charter that include shrinking the council to a smaller amount, changing the authority of the mayor and the mayor's office. Are there recommendations that you would support from the council's recommendations so far to changing our city charter?
Thank you, Alexis. So this I do believe that, you know, whatever charter we have, it just comes to the individuals that are in that charter to participate and be transparent and accountable. I believe that no matter which charter you're in, we have a concern of misappropriation of funds still. We have concern of still corruption. When we look at our neighboring cities like Petersburg, you know, they had a city charter. There was a city manager, and we see how Petersburg ended up with that. So, you know, essentially it comes down to the responsibility of the individual that's holding office to be accountable, transparent, and inclusive. So to answer your question, did I answer your question in regards?
Your answer is your answer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
For those of you who have not had time to parse the several hundred-page document that is the Charter Commission Review recommendations, there are tons of recommendations in the document, including options like shrinking the city council to be 6 elected members plus a 7th who's the mayor who chairs the council. There are suggestions like requiring the mayor by code to show up to city council meetings. There are suggestions that are all across the board. My thought process is I don't believe the challenges we're having are a result of the charter. While there could be charter changes that make sense, I don't think changing the charter is going to magically fix the challenges that we have going on in the city.
So having worked with 3 mayors, the 3 we've had that are strong, I believe that the form of government we have just hasn't had the right person yet. And I think a lot of the charter changes are due to the fact that we have a question about power, a question about authority, who's responsible for what. And I've seen those conflicts play out firsthand throughout my entire 8 years on council. And then when I was working within City Hall, seeing the conflict happen between the CAO and the mayor and council, and you didn't know who was going to be the right winner in that race as well. And so what I'm seeing is mayors showing up. It's not about higher office, it's about getting the job done. It's about the policies, it's about the relationships, it's about being here. Our mayor has been traveling a lot for getting exposure to other networks and other opportunities while he should be here taking care of business. For me, that's what I focus on as a mayor, and that's what I focus on as a city council person. And I'm just going to make sure that we act out what we see in the charter and make sure that's seen by you all as a difference in government with me as mayor.
I think some of the recommendations in the charter were really solid. I think you know, people are not going to give up their right to elect a mayor. I don't think that has any traction at all, and that is ultimately not what made it through to the charter review. I think we want to preserve people's right to popularly elect a mayor. I think making it more politically wieldy by decreasing the number of council people could be good politically. I think having the mayor, whether it's a requirement or just the spirit of the mayor, show up at city council meetings and actually engage in discourse is going to be really important. I fully agree that this is about how the mayor develops relationships and really does the work of galvanizing the council around a vision so that we can move the city forward.
I've had the opportunity of serving on city council, and so with every policy, every document, I think that there needs to be a moment where you go back and you take a look at it and see what's working, what's not working. And so there are some things that I think could have a shift. But do I think that we should just do away with or even decline on or shift the districts? No, I do not, because we had the 9 districts for a reason. So we need to make sure that when we're doing that, that we're not diluting the black vote. And so I think that that's going to be a concern if we shift to just the seven districts or however the charter is trying to propose it. And so my answer to that is no. The accountability is on the next leader to show that the mayor can be and will be accountable, transparent, and work with council and school board. Thank you.
Mr. Rodet, you're on. About those P cards, those charge cards, my colleague Samuel Parker, who's here this evening, has written extensively about them, and the apparent abuses. Would you do away with the program entirely? Are there steps that can be taken to preserve it but strengthen it? Or if there is an alternative, what might that be?
Sure. So I could talk about this for a lot longer than 45 seconds, so I'll really try and condense it. Okay, so purchasing cards, as we would all think of as credit cards, these are straightforward items to govern. And in fact, if you look through the documentation that has been published in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, our frontline workers in the procurement department, in this scenario where some credit cards were misused, they actually did their job. They flagged these transactions for review by management. And what happened then was a failure of leadership after that. So the system almost worked. It is not a problem to regulate P cards. These things are done by computer. They're very straightforward. I do think what we feel it might be emblematic of is a tighter run government fiscally, and I think I have the experience to help make that happen.
In 2015, when I was an employee in City Hall, I got a COVID award from the governor for innovative use of open data. And the first data set we put up there was purchases made by city employees. And it says every department, agency, amount, vendor, and a description note of what that money was for. It was active for a couple years. I further supported that endorsement through my legislation as city council person in 2017. The current leadership does not agree with publishing this information. That is transparency. It's your tax dollars. You should see how they're being spent. More importantly, there are easy checks and balances you can put in place to validate purchases, reconcile purchases, and if they're not appropriate for government purchases, then take it out of their paycheck. And it's not hard to do. We don't even do any of the basic stuff. So as mayor, I'll institute what I started back in 2015.
I think P cards are a helpful way to improve efficiency in government, but there has to be an environment of clear policy and practice. This really is about accountability, right? And so part of I've spent 15 years as an executive leader in local and state government. We've effectively used P cards, and there are multiple layers of control. There are multiple reports that where accountability is checked. And so, I really do think the shift is how are we creating a culture of accountability within city government?
I agree. P cards are a part of government. And so for me, it's the process. It's following your process. And I don't think it's just with the P cards. I think we're seeing a lack of following process in this administration. And so we need a mayor that if we have a process, we follow the process. And if the process doesn't work, then we shift and we get a process that does. And so I have a nonprofit. We have cards. We also audit. We also make sure that the purchases are what the purchases should be. And so again, we need someone that is going to have leadership that is going to be on top of what is happening within the government so that the processes are being actually executed. Thank you.
So I believe that the P cards is an efficient way so that we can process a lot of orders within this inner governance. Though I do believe that we do need to have control models in place. We should have supervisors that have control of those cards. We have logs and reporting. You can have access control. You can sign in and out that card and then attach the receipts for your purchase for approval and review so that we can have immediate response and corrections if there are any issues. That's been the platform since the beginning. I knew this issue would be at hand. Our platform is financial accountability. For one, we want to make sure that we have a system in place to show the allocation of funds so our citizens know where their money is being spent. But with that, we also is going to make sure that we have a governance that works together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch things up on y'all. You've been in a lot of forums. Going to make things a little interesting here. Is there a specific question that you as a candidate would like to ask one of your rivals? Here is your chance. Oh, we got audiences interested. They woke up from the P-card talk. Okay. One question to the candidate. If you respond, if the person being asked the question responds with an accusation, then the question asker will be allowed a brief rebuttal. So again, if there is a question that you'd like to ask one of your rivals, now's your chance. One question to the person of your choice. We'll start with Councilman Addison.
You're doing a great job. Asking the questions. So no, it's like that was my.
No,
that was my
you're
thing.
passing.
I'm
Okay,
passing.
Mr. Avula.
Sorry, can you just, so I can ask a question
To anyone on the stage, or you can continue to be genteel and pass. But I think the audience wants a little entertainment here.
Okay, this is politics, right? I mean, there are things that are going to happen. We all signed up for
Let's
this.
enforce the 45-second rule for the questions.
Question asking, all right. So I'm going to ask my friend Michelle. I'm hearing from my friends in public housing that many of your folks are telling public housing residents that I don't hire black staff and I've never done anything for the black community. I know you wouldn't say that, but what will you do to address that with your staff?
I first would need to ask my staff, because I love you, but you don't come up at our. You don't come up at the office, and so it's kind of hard for me to believe, because again, you don't come up in the conversation, and so I'll ask staff and then have that conversation. Absolutely.
Your turn for the next question. Ms. Mosby, you have the opportunity to ask any of your opponents a question.
Sure. Mr. Neblett, my question is for you. This is a city of 230,000 people. My question is, do you really feel that you are qualified to be the city's next mayor?
Absolutely, I do. I work with the citizens on a day-to-day basis. I have skill sets that I've grown over the years. Like I mentioned, I'm on a fiscal management team. Also I'm an entrepreneur and business owner. I've been doing this for over 15 years. I'm 35 years old. I have room as of anyone to grow. No one on the stage has experience of being the mayor, because no one was the mayor. Let's get that right. I'm not here by chance. I'm standing in front of you, someone who met the qualifications to become mayor, and I am looking to serve the city as mayor. Thank you. I'm a common man going into politics, and as he said, Mr. Avula said, it's politics. I hate this. The question is for Ms. Mosby.
Ask the question.
All right, so as a community organizer, I be fronted with a lot of concerns from citizens, and one of which is a program that some individuals have participated through your program, and I believe they receive $500 monthly through your program.
Mayor's Guaranteed Income.
Yes, Mayor's Guaranteed Income. Could you explain to me why is it that I just most recently, this month, actually saw the receipts that the individuals showed that they received $500, but they scrolled back over 6 to 8 months and they only received $250. What happened to the other remaining $250 that those clients, that population, is supposed to receive?
So the original document that the city council had was the $250. That's all that they received the first year. We just signed a document with City Hall where they would receive the $500, and so that document was just signed recently, that they would receive the $500, and so they have now all been receiving the $500. It was a document just signed.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. But why is the reason that they feel that it was? Oh, you said
you weren't accused of anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
if they yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. You can be the moderator next go round. Mr. Rode.
Yeah, I'd love to take a little bit of a different spin on this question. I think it's been noted by many of you. I've had some direct questions on issues for other candidates in the past. Those are well known. So let's talk about one thing we have in common. I'd like to ask Councilman Addison, who passed on his turn, just to share why he thinks fair, free transportation is so important. It's an issue that he's been a strong advocate of, and I think folks should hear from him as to why he thinks it's such a critical issue for Richmond.
I thought it was going to be left out.
Which I support, to be
No,
clear.
I know. I agree. You know, Fair Free Transit, when it started during COVID and after the response, we saw the popularity of just making the bus available to everybody. When we got rid of the fare box, a lot of people think that we make a lot of money on GRTC for that. I'm the vice chair of the GRTC board. We make about $3.5–4 million a year. And the annual budget's about $65 million. So we're not really giving up a lot of money. But what's really important is that the region is investing in free transit. It's going to Henrico, it's going to Chesterfield, and because we made it free, we've removed barriers. We've made it not a quizzical thing of what is this bus coming to my neighborhood for. It's now, let me see where this goes. I can just hop on and hop off. And that access has made so many resources available for so many people across our communities, and that's what I'm really proud of being able to find the funding for and the operational support across the region. Thanks,
You don't want to positively accuse me of something to give me some more time to talk about something?
Dr. Avula, we'll start with you. Question from the audience in advance of the evening's proceedings regarding your respective faith traditions, where you worship, and where your church, mosque, synagogue stands on gay rights.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. You know, this has gotten a lot of run on social media recently. I'm glad we get the chance to talk about it. I attend a church called Third Church. It is a church that has been a family church. When I got married here in Richmond in 2001, my wife grew up in this church. Her parents, her grandparents, and so we became a part of that church. It is a fairly conservative tradition, and I think, as I shared with you in my opening statement, much of my journey has been about proximity. It has been about relationship across difference. It has been about deeply investing in equity. There are many things that I do not share in terms of the values of the church that I attend, but what I do share is a love of God and a belief that everybody is created in God's image, and that is preached week in, week out. And so I've maintained my membership as part of this community. Again, I don't agree with all of their social ideals and values, but it is family, and I think family has to work through some of those things.
Thank you, Doctor.
What was the question?
Your faith tradition
Yes.
and the church, synagogue, mosque you attend,
Yes.
Its position on gay rights.
I really have to think on their position on gay rights, and I say that because in our service we're taught to love everyone. We're taught,
And that's what denomination?
it's non-denominational.
Non-denominational.
Yes, and we're taught to love everyone, and so I don't know if we have a position other than loving everyone. I don't know if there's a position. I don't know if we have a position. I'm going to say I've never seen them marry two gay people. But we don't have a position.
So I've had a unique opportunity to explore religious backgrounds. With me being an orphan in a water state, I live with many families, which I was introduced to a lot of Christianity and Islam as well. The thing is, though, it was a point in time and stage that I always remember is that I came up through a family church when I was very young, so I always kept my studies up. I'm very, very caution on individuals, anybody just laying hands and praying on me because I do believe in spirits. So ultimately, you know, what I grew up in and what I learned is that everyone is accepted. You know, come as you are. You know, I never learned anything other than that. So my stance in separating religion and government is that I welcome everyone with inclusivity.
Thank you, Mr. Neville.
I am Jewish. I was brought up in the post-World War II liberal post-Holocaust order of making sure that no matter who you are, no matter what religion you affiliate yourself with, people are taken care of. People have opportunities. People are brought together. Homes are open. Houses of worship are open. And that liberal Jewish order is still something that matters a lot to me today, particularly given everything that's going on in our broader world. So, proud to be a member of the Jewish faith, and I'm as part of the Jewish tradition. Marriage is depends on your denomination of Judaism. The way I was brought up, anyone who wants to marry each other can get married.
I go to Chapel RVA, used to be Commonwealth Chapel, been there for 19 years. Play guitar in the worship band, and I've been a part of that congregation since it was started. I've had some discussions with leadership of my church about gay rights and gay marriage throughout my time there. But I associate those not as a church practice, but as just understanding differences of opinion. I know the Bible that I read and the person that I follow, that Jesus would talk to anybody and would love them where they are. And I think that's the belief that I have, and I carry that into the way that I carry myself. And so my church, I don't think, has a stance politically around what they say in regards to that. But I've attended gay weddings, and I've been a part of those communities, and I support everything about gay marriage and rights, etc. And so for me individually, that's what I believe. And so I'm not sure where my church stands officially.
We received a few questions, I guess, concerning campaign finance for a couple candidates in particular. So again, ever your wild card, Alexis, is going to ask two candidates in particular to respond to audience previously submitted questions. The first is for Mr. Rodet. As of the last public campaign finance report, vpap.org cites that a majority of your donors are coming from out of state. And with just 33 donors coming from Richmond, some folks are concerned that you may not have the roots to the community to serve the city you seek to lead. What would you say to those that are concerned that you've moved here and are seeking to buy the office?
Well, I did grow up here in Henrico County, as I said, and I think I'd have to double check the math, but I do believe the majority of our donations are from Virginia. But the question is still a very fair one nonetheless. All the folks who have supported our campaign are people that I've known through the work I've done in the nonprofit community and in the professional part of my life as well. So they know my values. They know the values the campaign is articulating. They know we're fighting for a more affordable Richmond. We're fighting for more affordable housing, for positive change in the city. So the folks who support the campaign, they embrace those values, and that's why they're supporting that vision for the future of Richmond.
Thank you. And one more for, you're looking at me, you know it's for you. The top two raisers in the race, raising $500,000 is no small feat. I think we've got another report coming out soon. The next question is for you, Mr. Avula. Under pressure, you did return $5,000 from a company called Avion that is an immigrant detention center in Farmville. Although you have not yet returned $25,000 from an individual who was also an early investor in the immigrant detention center, who also has been involved in some other organizations that are opposed to some of the issues that you shared that you support, including abortion rights and LGBT rights. Why haven't you returned the $25,000 that's associated with a similar organization that you did reject money from?
Yeah, I'll explain about the $5,000 first. So, we were raising money. I spoke in an event. Somebody came up to me and said, I'd love to support you. We got a check from a name that I didn't recognize, being new to politics. It was right before the deadline, and we processed it. I was made aware that came from an LLC associated with a state prison. As soon as we were made aware of it, we said, that's not aligned with our values, and we returned the money. The second case from an individual who I've had a long relationship with, I think it's a different case, right? Taking money from somebody who I know who has his own story, and I'm not going to share that here. I've shared it with some of you in the audience, but has really compelling reasons to step away from maybe some of the beliefs that they had previously. And I think the other thing that's true, and the next time we have a financial report, you'll see this, that there's a lot of people who support me. I'm very clear about the things that I've committed to, the work that I've done in justice and equity, the social values that I hold. And there's a lot of my donors who I may not agree with their social positions on things, but they believe that I am the most qualified candidate to help Richmond City's government move forward, right? I mean, I think the business community really sees the need in Richmond to build an
Time has expired.
organization.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
I think we are at, I got us all, so let's start back with Michelle.
Starting with Ms.
Me.
Ms. Mosby. I sense your power. What can I say? One of the realities of our low-income neighborhoods, they are food deserts. They are devoid of grocery stores and, in fact, access to nutritional foods. What can a mayor and council do to address this problem, or is this just one of those stubborn realities of the marketplace? As we see food chains consolidate and avoid areas where the already slim margins of return are even slimmer or non-existent.
So I think that there's a couple of things. Number one, I was a part of a council from 2012 to 2016 where we had an opportunity to really lobby and be successful with the market at 25th in the 7th District where there's a food desert. Dr. Newbill was a true advocate, and we were able to help her in that endeavor. The Richmond 300 also talks about the rooftops, and so it's, for me, have we gone back to look at the databases, or is there a database that tells us how many rooftops that we now have in the Manchester area and all of the growth that we have that could spark a grocery store down in the Manchester area? As well as Dr. Newbell and I have had numerous conversations to see that if we are having a conversation with one grocery store, how do we begin to have that conversation that says, if you bring 3 trucks, what does that look like for 3 trucks to come to service the city of Richmond? So it's having the conversations and being able to bring the outcomes. And I've been able to work with council to do it before with the market at 25th. I believe we can do it again as mayor.
Could you just repeat that question for me, please?
It's a reality in low-income neighborhoods. They are food deserts, devoid of grocery stores, and as a result, residents are denied access to nutritional foods. What can the mayor and council do to address this, or is this just one of those stubborn realities of the marketplace that grocery store chains are consolidating, the returns per store are very narrow, and that these larger, very profit-oriented enterprises are just going to avoid these lower-income neighborhoods?
Thank you, Mr. Shapiro. So, when it comes down to it, I lived all over the city of Richmond, and one thing I know for sure is a lot of people in Southside. There's no question. The food desert that's there is pretty much unnecessary. We have Elwood Thompson, which is a health food market. We have the Good Food Market as well, that's similar, which are smaller stores, right? I believe we need to invest in that area, right? We spend a lot of money in other areas. I believe we do need to create self-sustainability for communities and offer opportunity for individuals in the community to work those stores. I think we could take an innovative approach with having dialogue with City Council and with the mayor's office in that approach. I believe there's no question that there shouldn't be any more hurdles, and there shouldn't be anything holding us back from ensuring that we just put a store there. We have enough people.
That's the time.
Thank you. And please, everybody just got to get the same amount of time. Some people running over. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Everybody sees.
Yeah,
it.
just keep an eye on Mr. Billy here and look for that fist. We're letting him hold it for a little bit before we try to cut somebody off. Mr. Roday.
I think if we can invest taxpayer money in baseball stadiums, subsidizing baseball stadiums, then we can invest taxpayer money in subsidizing food deserts. That's just seems straightforward. I have a lot of personal experience in this area. I get excited talking about food security because there are so many intersections of racial justice, food security, economic justice, and climate change whenever we talk about food and access to healthy food. I helped run a nonprofit that supports BIPOC farmers and urban farmers with micro community gardening, things along those lines. We can do more in the city than we currently do. There's no doubt about it.
One of the beautiful things a city can do is plan. We can plan for growth, we can plan for development, and we can go say, I want to bring a grocery store to the south side. I want to bring grocery stores to the south side. And what are the things you can do is zone for it, plan for it, put the map together. I want to see one here. The government can buy property. We can buy land. We can say, as we build and develop this neighborhood and bring the needed incomes and the people in this neighborhood, we can invest for that opportunity for creating a better quality of life. And it's not just grocery stores. It's childcare, it's healthcare, it's medical services. It's everything else that makes other neighborhoods strong and vibrant. And investing in lower income communities is what government does. And we haven't for 50, 60 years, especially in the same neighborhoods we need to invest in today. So for me as mayor, my number one priority will be focusing on improving the quality of life for everyone.
As public health director, food security was one of the major issues that we addressed for our city. We first were involved in supporting corner stores to bring fresh produce. We were deeply involved in propagating urban farms all over the city. We were involved in the advocacy efforts to bring the grocery store to the East End. I think as mayor, there are clear ways that we can invest larger dollars to bring grocery stores, but also ways that we can explore other models. Food co-ops, for example, that may not take as much of a front-end investment. I think there's a whole toolbox of things that we can do to address food security, but it's got to be part of the vision of the leadership of the city to execute.
Questions mine. City Council recently changed the public comment rules, and some advocates have submitted a question asking, what would you do to help protect residents against what some would call suppression of public comment? Changing the rules that would require you to state what the agency is about your concern. Some would say has the net effect of just reducing participation in our government. So I think the question is first for Mr. Neblett. How would you protect citizens' right to participate in their city government? Do you support the recent changes to City Council's public comment period?
So, as I mentioned, we've always support and want to push for equitable city, and especially a city government. Having an open access, that's the point of having a mayor's office that gives community the opportunity to have a seat at the table. That's a clear and direct message to those who want to have advocacy and they want to express their concerns. And I believe that we do need to support that in every way, because with that we'll be able to thrive and we'll be able to push forward and having a new way forward in regards to our communication with our community members. Thank you.
I think it's important to get to some form of balance on this issue. I'm a strong supporter of First Amendment rights. We also can't have council meetings where there are extremely legitimate city issues being faced where people can't comment because there is an attempt to focus only on one other issue depending on what the issue of the day is in world affairs. If someone needs to ask a question about the finance department, they need to be able to do that. So this is a balance. I trust our city council to continue to find that balance. It seems like we're still working through this new set of rules. I'd say it's too early to tell whether or not there's something that should be in place permanently. But I hope that all of the interested parties can continue to work together to find the right spot so that we can discuss issues that are important to the city without putting people in a position where they can't express their views on other issues.
Well, as the sitting council person on this stage, I can say that this change in policy came from a recommendation from the city attorney's office and from best practices across the state of Virginia. It was not taken lightly, but it started this time last year. So it seemed that this restriction came up at the timing where it was then needed for certain conversations before council. And so I understand the call for action. I do believe there is a balance needed between public comment, but also legislative priorities. We need to hear from the people. I've always had monthly town hall meetings. I'm available in multiple formats. And so one of the things is how do we make sure that people are engaged where they are? Coming to City Hall should not be the only way you engage. It's hard to find parking. It's hard to get in the building. It's hard to find a place to sit. So we need to find a way to modernize our public engagement platform so that everyone can have a voice.
We absolutely need to preserve freedom of speech. We also need to be realistic about what is appropriate for a city council conversation, and completely agree with the fact that we need to use multiple modalities for people to ensure that their voice is heard. We need to bring back the infrastructure for neighborhood teams, for community associations that give people voice. We need to use technology for people to be able to provide input on key issues. I think the end goal is to be able to engage productive conversation for the movement of local government, but we have to create as many spaces as possible outside of city council for folks to ensure that their voice is heard.
As a former city council representative, I certainly believe that the people's voice should be heard. I do believe it's too early to tell exactly where we are as it relates to making the shift. But as mayor, I am committed to being a part of council at least quarterly, so that I can be there to hear what's being said by the people of Richmond. And so I think that we need to see how it all plays out with what council has put in place. But as Richmond's next mayor, I want to be there as well, because I want to be a part of the conversation and hear and make sure that we are working together to answer questions and to build a Richmond that's working for all of us. Thank you.
And to Mr. Rodet, first, post-pandemic, the vacancy rates downtown in commercial and office space remains quite high, with this kind of enduring preference for working remotely. Depending on the grade of space, these rates are, I think, north of 20%. What can be done to encourage people to return to these downtown offices? And if not, how about repurposing some of this space as residential, maybe a step towards dealing with the housing crunch?
I'll try and cover as much as I can because it's a complicated and nuanced issue. I would start with the best way to prioritize the downtown sense of place getting to where we want it to go is getting more people to live downtown and supporting more small businesses that exist downtown while working on some of the neighborhood issues that we've seen repeatedly, whether it's streetlights and sidewalks not being in the place that they need to be. As someone who's worked shoulder to shoulder with small businesses in our community for almost the last 5 years, I've seen firsthand when we support our small business owners, our community succeeds. And we can absolutely do that with a focus on downtown. The issues that Jeff mentioned are extremely nuanced and complex. Repurposing alone is a fascinating topic. Our commercial residential stock is aging. We need a plan for downtown. I think it has to start with getting more people to live there and improving the quality of life for businesses that are there as well.
Yeah, downtown's a big empty donut hole in the city, and it's, I think, unfortunate, but it's also a product of our own an improvement. As a business owner, we need to clean up the permitting process.